3i Atlas passed nearest to Earth last week. What did we learn from its visit? What happens next? I'm Chris Daly, and I'm here with Ryan Geckner.
Will Pennhurst be turned into a data center? And was a memo sent out by the Department of Defense ending the U.S. Air Force's UFO disinformation program? This is Headlines from the Beyond.
Okay, so 3i Atlas came towards Earth. We're still here.
And it didn't stop and say goodbye.
It didn't. It just kept going. It didn't turn. It didn't do anything out of the ordinary for its out of the ordinariness, which isn't totally shocking.
Maybe mildly disappointing, but
Mildly disappointing. I was hoping for something unique, but at the same time, we didn't necessarily expect that it would turn around and be the mothership, anything like that. But did we learn now that this is definitely a natural comet?
maybe depending on who you ask.
Yeah. And I think the answer is we don't know yet, still. So, shockingly, as we've said before, we're going to look at data
That's right. We're gonna look at the data.
in the coming months. And of course, that's what's going to happen. I was hoping personally that we would know more after its closest pass, but we didn't learn anything immediately.
Yeah, and which we kind of predicted that, right? We knew that they were going to sit on the data for a minute, and we'll probably. I suspect I'll make a prediction now that we will get something that is explainable in the sense that it will be weird, but NASA will come up with an explanation, but they will be really quiet about disclosing that information later. Like we're gonna get this in like June or July once we've all forgotten about it, and then they're gonna be like, "Yeah, we finally finished our 3i Atlas data analysis, and here's this really weird thing, but here's how we're gonna explain it."
That's probably true.
Yeah, that's my prediction. You heard it here first.
So what we've learned is 3i Atlas still shows a lot of anomalies. We have heard natural explanations for all of them. We've also heard that there could be technological explanations for all of them, but that it's more likely that this is a natural comet. Now, it's interesting because Avi Loeb has said pretty clearly that there's a possibility that this could be alien tech, but
Hmm.
that it is most likely a natural comet.
Hmm.
And he recently said that again after made its closest pass to Earth. And people are jumping all over this now, saying, "Look, even Avi Loeb is saying it's most likely." He's finally admitting it. Well, except he actually first said that in July. So he never said, and we've said this 100 times.
Hmm.
If we've said it once, we've said it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He never said this is alien tech. He said there's a possibility and we should be open to that possibility. And I want to reiterate that I think we should still be open to that possibility, not just with 3i Atlas, but with anything that we see out there. So everything is still the same as it was last week. People are still saying, Loeb is a problem. People have problems with him. They're griping about him. Fine. We've seen some images released, some pretty cool images, and mostly by amateur astronomers, which I think is great. I think it's really cool that the images we're getting, and the images we're getting most quickly, are coming from the average person out there. Now, I will be honest and say all of the images sort of look like a fuzzy, either blue or green or white dot.
Dot.
But that's because this thing's really far away. So it came closest to Earth on the 19th, but it was 268.91 million kilometers away. That's not that close.
No.
So
I think I read somewhere that's like something like 10 times the distance between us and the moon. So like
right,
it's
it's pretty far away. And that's why we're getting these fuzzy images and things. And so my big question was, why can we get these beautiful images from Hubble of other solar systems and other things happening out there that are further away? And so if you're wondering, I looked into this to try to find out why, because I love some of those Hubble images.
Mhm.
It's because 3i Atlas is moving a lot faster than some of these other things that we're taking pictures of. So Hubble has a very long exposure. So if you do anything with photography, you know that if you have a long exposure, if you have something that's not moving, you're going to get a good picture. If you have something that's moving, not so much.
Mhm.
And so that's part of it. It also, 3i Atlas was very near the sun. The sun is really bright. And it also has this cloud of dust around it. So there's a lot of reasons why we're not getting good pictures. So if you're thinking, well, it's because NASA's hiding it, well, I mean, it
I mean, it
might
might
be.
be. We don't know.
But the reality is, it's just very difficult to get a nice, clear picture of something that's moving very fast and is
Mhm.
very far away.
Mhm.
So fuzzy balls of light,
Yay.
and that's what we get to see. Another thing to sort of start talking a little bit about is people have brought up this idea that why did it just pass by Earth and why didn't it come closer to Earth than Jupiter or
Mhm.
Mars?
Mhm.
If this is something that is technology, why wouldn't it come closer? So maybe that proves that it's natural. I don't think it proves it or disproves it.
Mhm.
This thing has been traveling through the Milky Way for a long time.
Yes.
And chances are it's about billions of years.
Mhm.
So there weren't even any humans around when this thing entered the Milky Way.
Yeah, no.
And it's traveling at 60 kilometers per second. That's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick. Yeah, that's a good
Um,
clip.
so it started a long time ago. It's going through quick. We didn't exist. So if anyone did send this thing from, interstellar space here, we weren't around.
Hmm.
So no one sent it to go look at us. But Jupiter, where it's going to pass closest, is 318 times larger than the Earth by mass. And that's so it's
It's a bigger
really
target.
it's the center of our solar system in the sense of it's this large planet. Obviously, yes, the sun is the center, but but
Chris
it's
over here,
it
like, I don't know about heliocentrism, folks. We gotta dig in on that.
but no, very
It's
seriously,
all a conspiracy.
this is this gigantic planet. So the reality is, if someone were to send to look at something, it would probably be the largest thing out there.
Could be. Yeah, that's a reasonable
Uh,
argument. Yeah.
and again, there were no humans
Yeah.
on Earth
There
billions
was
of years
not a
ago.
whole lot going on. Yeah. Except for like dinosaurs and stuff.
Right. So to Three Eye Atlas, we'll get closest to Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. So, maybe we'll learn a little bit more about it then.
Maybe it'll just pop right into Jupiter's atmosphere. Then we'll be like, okay, that was weird.
Well, one thing I know that many people have talked about watching is, what's going to happen when it passes that close? Is it going to leave anything there?
Mhm.
Because that
What
would
about
really
you?
be a signature that something tech is going on.
Mhm.
Is it going to leave something to observe Jupiter or whatever? That it wouldn't have left at Earth because we didn't exist as, as an intelligent
Earth
civilization,
did
whatever
not
you want
look
to
the
call it.
same.
Didn't look the same. So there's still things to look at. I think it's cool that we're going to continue to look at it. But the reality is, nothing really important happened on December 19th in
No,
terms of Three
it's kind of a
Items.
bummer.
So where to go from here? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think, like I said, I think we're gonna keep waiting for more data to come out from astronomers and NASA and places like that. They're gonna sit and analyze the data. All their little nerds are gonna get together and
Lots of data analysis.
yeah, they're gonna sit and crunch some numbers.
Probably with some machine learning.
I hope so. I hope so, right? Because that's got to be a lot of data. And then we really, while we're waiting for that, we wait for our next interstellar visitor to come through. I mean, this is the third one that we've had in relatively recent years.
And
And
the reality
so,
is there's probably a ton more of them out there that we
yeah,
don't
and we
realize.
just didn't realize that's what we were looking at. And so, hopefully we learned from the first three and can put together some sort of plan to launch something to get it to this visitor or closer to it so that we can get some good pictures that aren't just fuzzy specks. But I think, one of the cool things about it, and this is I say this personally too, is that there seems to be some renewed interest in astrophysics and astrobiology and things like that. And I've been really into UFOs and extraterrestrials and everything for the last year, really doing a deep dive. But this has kind of made me more interested in that aspect of it. So hopefully, we'll see, like we said the last time, hopefully there's an Avi Loeb effect.
I would love that. I would love to see more and more young people getting involved in these sciences and with an open mind, with the idea that we can hypothesize about things not being natural.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So hopefully we're going to see more and more renewed interest and based on what I've seen online and kind of followed a little bit, there is. And
Hmm.
that's awesome.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think we can also learn from this, not just, hey, we should pay attention.
Yeah.
But I think there are things that we can learn from this. So talking a bit about paying attention, I would say one thing we learned from this is that the majority of the population really doesn't pay attention to what's going on outside Earth's atmosphere.
Nope.
And if this made some people do that, I think that's great. I think we need more things to make more people look out there
Hmm.
and see what's going on. So I wanted to just plug a novel that I recently read by an author by the name of Matt Haig. It's called The Humans. And I think it provides some insight into how we as people think about the world and think about the universe and our place in it. So just a brief kind of synopsis of it. There's an alien that takes the form of a mathematics professor at Cambridge. And it's basically because this professor proved one of those unprovable mathematical proofs, and this was going to give humans way too much information. So that's bad. Um, so this alien takes over the form of the mathematics professor. Not to delve too much into the book, I really do recommend reading it. But his descriptions of humans are, I think, one of the things that make it really an interesting read. There's one that sticks out. He's talking about watching the news. And we've all watched the news. And
Hmm.
I mean, I find myself watching it less and less because it's really depressing. But he's watching the news and he's realizing that people don't care so much about things that are not happening close to home. And he starts out by talking about, nobody cares about what's going on in the universe, but hey, nobody cares about what's going on in other countries and in the town next door. And he boils it all down to, hey, if the news could be about your house, and even more specifically, the room in your house with your main television, that's what you would pay attention to. And you know what? It's kind of true. I mean, I know it goes too
Yeah,
far,
it's a little tongue in cheek, but yeah.
but it teaches us something.
Hmm.
It teaches us to pay attention to other things going out there, and that's what Three Eye Atlas is also teaching us.
Hmm.
And so I love that idea of making people look at what's out there. And if it makes you uncomfortable, awesome.
Hmm.
Because it should make you a little bit uncomfortable. We all have to get outside of our comfort zones
Hmm.
at different points. Say, for example, by doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So I love that idea. And I think Three Eye Atlas taught us that. I think Three Eye Atlas also taught us that the majority of scientists still are not willing to accept the hypothesis that something is not natural.
Or that scientists are not willing to speak up when they do.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I think
absolutely.
there's two parts to that, right? There is the part of many scientists are, comfortable towing that line, but then there are probably more scientists than you would think that are willing to entertain those possibilities, but because of the structure of science, contemporary science, it's not easy to be an Avi Loeb because we can see how everyone in his field, even though he's, we read all of his credentials, he is impressive by many measures. And even still, there's a lot of people who are like, no, this guy's a quack.
Yeah, even someone like him. So what does that leave for the rest of us?
Right, right. For
Who
your
are not.
average academic who doesn't have 1,000 publications and
Right,
400 hyperlinks in their bio.
right. I think that's something that scientists can learn.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe allow for the fact that there are other ideas out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Maybe we don't have to just critique people instantaneously and,
Hmm.
and and maybe let people think a little bit.
Yep.
So I think we learned a lot from 3i Atlas. I think we're going to continue learning from 3i Atlas. If nothing else, learn a little bit more about interstellar space and what
Hmm.
comes from interstellar space. And I personally would love to continue to talk about, some of the things that are out there and that might come through.
Hmm.
So, what else is happening in the world of the paranormal?
We've got two interesting stories for everyone today. First, this one's kind of a close to home story for us. East Vincent Township, which is in Pennsylvania, shelves an ordinance restricting a proposed data center on the site of Pennhurst. Now, if you're not familiar with what Pennhurst is, it's it was originally Pennhurst State School and Hospital. It was an institution for the mentally and physically disabled run by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania between 1908 and 1987. Now, there's a lot to talk about with the history of Pennhurst, which we're not going to get into today.
I really think we should one day because it is horrific.
Yes, yeah,
it is really horrific.
There's a wild story with how it got shut down and kind of some investigative reporting that happened and all kinds of stuff. That's a really totally wild story. Like many sites like that in the United States that have closed down, it's become a very popular paranormal investigation location. It's been featured on lots of shows, including Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Destination Fear, among all kinds of others on YouTube, etc. And it also is known now for hosting Pennhurst Paracon, as well as haunted house style attractions throughout the year, in addition to public and private paranormal investigations.
And Paracon's pretty cool there.
Yeah, we went to Paracon last year. We have some thoughts and feelings about it, but it's a kind of cool event that if you want to go for the day and pop in and check out some vendors and rub shoulders with the famous Ghost Hunters people and everybody else that's there, it's kind of cool. I mean, we were like walking through a building and Steve Gonsalves and Dave Tango just like walked down the hall right next to us, and it was weird because you're like, oh, you're a real person and not as tall as I would have expected. So like that's the weird one, and it's funny too because like you want to like talk to them, but you want to be cool. And they are clearly very used to this because they like make eye contact with no one as they're looking around, which honestly I can't even be mad at them for. But definitely check it out. But back in October, we started hearing news of a plan to turn Pennhurst into a data center, which raised our eyebrows a little bit. And so we kind of started keeping an eye on this story. It's been somewhat quiet unless you're local. There was a change.org petition that was started back right around this time that now has nearly 13,000 signatures. Now, I don't really know what change.org petitions really do, but
sometimes they call attention to things, but I don't think there's much past that.
And so we'll link that in the show notes for people who are interested in seeing that. That also includes pictures of the proposal for the data center and kind of gives you a sense of what they're going to do and basically get rid of everything that's there. And this past week, there was plans to ratify an ordinance to restrict any and all data center development in East Vincent Township. Now, initially, everybody thought that sounded good, but those plans have been now shelved, and they decided not to move forward with the ordinance and instead allow the plan to proceed to what's called a conditional use hearing. If you're into, small town politics and zoning boards and all of those things and zoning regulations, you know what that means. But in case you are not,
I'm not at all.
Essentially, what this is it's almost like a mini trial, so to speak, at the sort of township level. And it allows residents to express their concerns on the record. So if they had passed the ordinance last week, they wouldn't have really had a chance for the local public to say anything about it. They could have come to sort of the open mic at council meetings, but it wouldn't have been on the record before the zoning board to make those decisions, right? And so it's actually kind of a good thing, even though initially it seems maybe not so great. Now, to make matters a little weirder, if you follow Pennhurst on social media at all, which we do, they continue to hold and plan future haunted attractions according to their website and social media, including upcoming Paracon for next year, which is scheduled for May 16th and 17th. And if you, like me, pay attention to the comments section, every once in a while someone pops in there and says, so are you guys still a thing? And there's really not a lot of responses.
This is not responses.
So it's kind of spooky, in my opinion, and we'll keep an eye on that story as it develops and hopefully goes to this, hearing.
And some of the interesting things that are happening with this, the people in the town are not saying we don't want this data center because of the paranormal stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah. So there's kind of two-pronged thing here. So some people are talking about the sort of historical significance of Pennhurst.
And there is a lot of historical significance, but it is not on the national record of historic places. So to do that would take a lot because buildings have to be in a certain state of repair for that. And Pennhurst largely is not.
In rough shape.
Yeah.
By all accounts. But a lot of the conversation that's happening around it is about how a data center would impact access to clean water and electricity prices and things like that. They've converted another property on the site to a Veterans Affairs rehab facility, and so there's some questions about how that would impact that facility as well, because it's part of the main sort of campus. If you go to Pennhurst now for all the haunted stuff, it's not there, obviously, but it's very close to where those buildings are.
But if they do and it's a gigantic data center. I encourage
Yeah,
you
it's
to look
big.
at some of the
Yeah.
pictures of what this thing would be. It's going to provide a lot of things for the town.
Yeah,
Things
there's
that I
that.
might not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
think are the most important, but it would provide 200 permanent jobs, but more than that, a lot of jobs in terms of when they're actually building the thing and all of
yeah,
that. So that's something. It also provides quite a bit of tax revenue,
yeah,
particularly for the school district there.
yeah.
It was something, I mean, it was a crazy amount of money. 27 or 37 billion or
Hmm.
million maybe. I don't know. I
Yeah.
would have to look it up. But it was a tremendous amount of tax dollars. And so, there are some reasons why some people in the town would really want this. So it
Yeah.
is a contentious issue.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say we fall very much on the side of protecting history and
Yeah,
maybe, but there are reasons.
yeah,
So, we'll be following that.
yeah. And the other story that we want to leave you with today is that there is an interesting FOIA request going on related to a program called Yankee Blue, which is the code name for a supposedly fake, and we'll get to why it's supposedly here in a second, U.S. Air Force UFO program. So if you do any research into what Yankee Blue is, it's kind of described as a hazing ritual where personnel working on classified projects were shown images of UFOs and told they would be working on projects to reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology. Now, this has been going on reportedly since the Cold War era, and these personnel often signed non disclosure agreements for their work and then went on to believe that the program itself was real. And so they thought that the projects they were working on were reverse engineering extraterrestrial tech. Now, they may have been. We actually don't know.
We don't know, but it's described as a hazing
It's
ritual.
yeah, it's been described as a hazing ritual. Now, reporting from this summer revealed that the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the AARO, AARO, which is the Pentagon's office that investigates anomalous reports, in case you weren't aware, found evidence of Yankee Blue and sent a memo across the Department of Defense, which is now the Department of War, to end the practice. Now, back when this happened, the Black Vault, an online archive of declassified government documents. Go check out the website. It is very interesting. You can go down so many rabbit holes on there. Submitted a FOIA request that was initially denied. And and then they turned around and appealed this denial. Now, a couple of weeks ago, they got a response on that denial. And surprisingly, the acting chief of the FOIA division granted the appeal. So now we sit and we wait and see what the response will be. Ideally, this requires the Department of War to acknowledge that either the memo exists and find it, or explain what was behind all of this reporting that was happening over the summer and other things that have been talked about since this memo was supposedly sent. So we'll see what happens.
That's all very confusing.
It's very confusing. It's very weird.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what's going on, and we just saw that age of disclosure
Right.
thing.
Yes. And you can't not think about that in the context of
Right,
this
you
FOIA
can't.
request.
So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see sort of how this plays out.
Yeah.
And FOIA it's supposed to be about everybody getting
It's supposed to be.
to,
Yes.
freedom of information,
It's
but
good in theory.
I don't believe that it always happens that way. And there are reasons why, and some of them are valid, some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Well, to wrap this up, we wanted to kind of say some of our plans about these headlines from the Beyond episodes going forward. Initially, we set out to do this set of 6 episodes about Three Eye Atlas and really dive deep into it and then give you these fun other stories at the end.
But it's been fun.
And it's been fun. Yeah, we had a good time and they weren't too terribly much work. Not as much as the regular episodes by any means. And so we wanted to kind of give you a taste of what we're hoping to do going forward. We'd like to try for weekly episodes. We're going to try. That's a big, big capital T try, folks. They will definitely be shorter, we think, right around the 15-minute mark, so about half the length of our episodes so far. But if something comes along of the scale of Three Eye Atlas or similar, we'll maybe decide to do some deep dives.
Yeah, and that was me getting really, really excited about Three Eye
That's okay.
Atlas.
It's been fun.
So, you know, we'll see if that happens again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's been fun talking about some of these headlines, and so we want to continue to do
Mhm.
that. We will also be in the probably right around the new year, talking a little bit about how our anomalies project is going,
Yeah.
to give you some, you know, just some updates on that, and we'll do that every so often. So that'll be probably part of this headlines thing. So yeah, I think you know, it'll be fun to see what we can learn in real time.
Yeah. So if you liked what we were doing here with headlines, let us know on social media so that we know that you're into it and want us to keep doing these episodes. Otherwise, we want to say thank you for joining us while we leave the possibilities open for the anomalous and look ahead to all the latest paranormal news. This has been Headlines from the Beyond.